So if you're running 100 miles, I'm imagining there's a lot of misery involved with some of that.
There is. It's a different kind of misery. You really need to consider the difference between discomfort and pain if you want to get through it, I think. Because discomfort is something that's very acceptable and temporary. I can think of races where I say miles 30 through 70 were really painful, but you just keep pushing through them and moving through them. And you learn to kind of wrap your head around the pain and embrace it as, like I said, as discomfort instead of as pain. When you're finished, immediately after a finish, you feel like you're in a bubble. Probably it has to do with the sleep deprivation piece. It feels weird talking to people and so on, you know. It's kind of like when you've been tripping acid, you've come down or something like that. You know, it's like you're not sure really if that other person is going to melt or not, or you know, if they're really, though, if you're just on such a different wavelength than other people, you know. And you know that if you stop moving, you're probably gonna fall asleep. There are physical dangers out there, of course. Usually what you see is just mental basket cases. And again, maybe that comes from sleep deprivation. You usually see people really mentally f***ed up as opposed to physically hurt from just the wanting to stop but keep working through it, you know, that kind of thing. Usually what stops people, it's all up here, it's their heads, it seems. You just see mental basket cases.
You see people crying?
You might see them crying, especially in the late night. 2, 3 a.m. is when you see some real messy, sloppy stuff. Yeah, you'll probably see people crying. I do like that feeling of being exhausted, and I do think that sometimes it takes a good several hours before you're really feeling good running. When you go out and run for 6 hours, after 3 or 4, you feel like you can go forever, and there is a different kind of feeling, you know. The first night, you never really sleep, though. You're waking up cramping, and you're just... Usually I wake up just completely soaked sheets from sweat. It usually takes a couple nights before I really am able to sleep. There's a great feeling of accomplishment, like, wow, I made it, of course, but usually that piece of it takes a few days to really process and sink through too. And that's why I love these things, because you don't know if you're going to make it. You know, it's so different from the neighborhood 5K where everybody at the starting line is most likely going to finish. I'm not knocking that neighborhood 5K either. But it's just a completely different thing at the start of 100 where a third of the people may make it to the finish line, and you don't know if you're going to be one of those people, what you're going to encounter that day, either externally or internally, that you might be hopefully able to move through to get to the finish.
Do you mind talking a little bit about how this running relates to your sobriety and how maybe you came to that point or how they intersected?
The running is a big piece of my recovery. It's not something I depend on for my recovery. Running can't be the answer to my recovery because I'm going to get injured, I'm going to get hurt. The running might not always be there, but it is good therapy. And I find that at these races of ultra long distances, there are many people like me there. So I have many friends in recovery, I have many friends in long running, and then if you want to think of the Venn diagram, I have some really great friends of that place where those two things intersect, and there are tons of people where those two things intersect. We talked about the question, what's wrong with you that you would run 100 miles? I find that there is a lot of people who deal with mental illness drawn to that long running game, probably because it takes an obsessive type of mind, probably because you really have to get to know yourself, that I might possibly where I'm getting down to the core of who I am